So I'm actually really excited to introduce this panel, mainly because we come from all different sectors in the NFT space. We have from the game industry to the content creation industry, to the tokenization of software industry, and lastly, not least, the membership industry. I'm also part of the membership industry. So what are we here? What are we here today? So I know we want alpha. So let's just do a brief round of introductions really quickly. First of all, my name is Zoe. I am a co-founder of Crypto Girls Club. We've just launched our membership NFTs, unlocking access for women in Web3. So we're the largest women in Web3 community in Germany, in Berlin. I'm English though. And also, once you own an NFT on Polygon, you get access to co-working spaces, educational courses, basically bridging the gap between Web2 and Web3. So, over to you.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Fraser. I've been working in the NFT space for about 2.5 years now, mostly doing marketing for marketplaces and NFT platforms. I'm currently Chief Marketing Officer for MintStars. We're a subscription platform for content creators. Think OnlyFans or Patreon, but we turn creators' content into NFTs and use crypto for payments.
So hi, my name is Jacob Haap. I'm a software architect based out of Berlin, Germany, where I run an early stage startup called Anomaly Science. What we do is we provide a tokenized solution for software licensing and different Web3 developer tools.
Hi, I'm Alex, or Silly Tuna. I've been in crypto for over 10 years. I was one of the first people talking about NFTs. I own the first ever NFT. I've sold some famous NFTs, but I'll leave that one for now. But I also invest widely in the space. I make games on the side of that, and I have a crypto project called Soulcast, and we're exploring customizable NFTs and gaming.
Hi everyone, my name's Gavin Berry. I'm the founder of an NFT incubator called Psycho Labs and a concierge service company called Drunken Monkey Members Club, where we unlock access for Web3 NFT holders to be able to get affordability, ownership of their own concierge services.
Awesome. Given the energy of the room earlier, I know we're in a crypto winter, so woo, well done for staying here after 2 long years. So the NFT space has kind of, dragged along those last 2 years. What we saw in the last cycle was a lot of, a lot of scams, a lot of wash trades, and it's kind of giving NFTs a pretty bad reputation. So I guess for those who believe in the future of it, I hope you do because you're working pretty hard on changing that. How do we emerge out of this and how do we build better so our reputation isn't as tarnished as we saw in the last cycle? Who wants to take that?
I'll take it.
Oh yeah, Alex, go for it.
How do we do better? Well, I don't think you can in a sense because it's an open space and anyone can do anything. So we can all talk about we should do better, we should do the right things, but in reality that means trying to call out scams, having better software to detect theft, which was definitely needed and is definitely now happening. There's lots of software you can have to protect your wallets. Try and be more positive with regulators as much as it's a bit of a dirty word, which I think more of the industry should be. But the reality is that all you can really do is concentrate on making good projects, embracing your communities and helping people be positive. Trying to guide people away from bad projects. But if there is another NFT boom of any kind, and there's typically been crypto booms every sort of 4 years or so, having been through a few now, anytime there is a boom period in a financial market, you get scams, you get bad press, and it will happen again, like it's inevitable. But we can mitigate some of it by at least having positive examples, and we didn't have enough positive examples because it was just too early. We didn't expect it. Just before the NFT boom, which is shortly before COVID, we'd been at an event in Hong Kong, and for a couple of years it had been all the same people. It's probably about 20 of us doing NFTs and games, and not much more than that. And we said at some point there'll be more people doing this. We didn't expect what happened, but now in another downtime, there's a lot more people here interested in NFTs who are going to do good stuff. And I hope that's the best we can do, is just make sure they're good projects.
I would sort of counter-argue the last sentence about there's a lot more people interested in the NFT space.
Oh, there are 2019, 2020?
Are we talking about mass adoption here? Are we talking about my mum in the audience?
No, because remember what I've said is I went back to pre-COVID, and like the very early days of NFTs were actually like 2014, 2015. But 2019, 2020, pre-COVID, we still had NFTs. They still existed. They were growing, and then they boomed, and then they dropped off. But there was a natural cycle to it. But we're definitely not in mass market, but we were in mass awareness, and that's a precursor to mass market.
Okay, so Fraser, how do we get to the mass market?
Yeah, no, I think to sort of build on what Alex has been talking about, there's a distinction for me between NFTs as part of a cycle and a bubble, and that is when you use the word financial tool and being part of a financial market, versus NFTs as a technology, as a platform to do things with ownership of content or licensing of software or whatever other application it is. And I think what I'm curious about is, can we do things with NFTs that can't be done using another technology outside of digital collectibles and speculation, which is a use case. It's a real use case. It's something that people want to do. But for us at MintStars, it's about using NFTs to represent ownership and access to content. And I think that's an example where if we can prove that they're usable enough, and I think we'll come on to some of that stuff later, then that's something that can hopefully drive the space forward. Whereas I guess there's sort of that debate about, are people interested in NFTs for the technology, or are they interested based on a cycle that maybe gets bigger each time, but maybe there's a bigger crash each time?
Cool. So Jacob, do you actually, I mean, you have a B2B product, right? Do you actually promote the technology, or is the technology running in the background, this NFT token? Because I think the further we get to not even mentioning that this is an NFT, the closer we are to adoption. So.
Yeah, so I run it in the back end. It's not something I go out of my way to advertise. Like, I'm not going out saying, hey, this is an NFT. I rather say that this is a token. Part of it has to do with just the stigma around the word NFT. When people hear NFT, they think, oh, those scam monkey pictures. I'm not doing anything with that. I'm with software licensing. I don't want any association with it. So it's very much, like you said, something that's hiding in the background. People could use my product without even knowing that it is an NFT. All they'll know is that they have to connect their wallet, or maybe even we can abstract that even further, so that way they just don't even know that there's tokens being used in the back end. And I think that's something we're gonna see with a lot of other projects as we get into the future, is that they can hide the fact that they are using these tokens, that it's a Web3 thing. And I think that's what we're sort of gonna drive how we get this into the market, how we keep this getting into the hands of new people.
You said the buzzword JPEG monkey picture. So Gavin, how do you break the stigma, because you are the Drunken Monkey Club? So you were providing real value as well, apart from that.
It's a great point, and it's something I wanted to highlight just before Jacob called me out. But you know, I think the problem from the last cycle, which you appreciate was after COVID, is too many people was buying into NFTs on the basis of what they look like. Okay, a big phenomenon come about because of what happened with Bored Ape Yacht Club. And everyone thought that the next NFT project that had great art was going to be the next Bored Ape Yacht Club, and everyone's going to make thousands of pounds. You know, you've got to think about, why are you getting into an NFT project? Are you getting into it because of what something looks like? Because if you are you willing to go and put that in your living room, on the wall, or in your kitchen, or in your office? Or should you be buying into an NFT because of the actual underlying value that NFT is going to give you? The artwork's kind of irrelevant unless it's a famous artist. Okay, you should be looking to buy into NFTs because of the service that's underpinned by the ownership that belongs to you for having access to it. And I think that's really important. What we've done with Drunken Monkey Members Club is we've leveraged what would be a traditional concierge service that people pay tens of thousands of years for to get access, passing it back to the individual who can have ownership of that access and something that they can have affordability for. And then when they don't want to use it anymore, they can pass it on to either a family, friend, relative, or trade it on a secondary market. And that should always hold its value based upon the underlying services that we're building. And I think that's what's important for the industry: accessibility and understanding.
Bored Apes have a lot going for them. Art isn't one of them. It's terrible artwork.
True.
Also, I totally disagree. It really does matter what the art looks like. It's not just about being a famous artist. It matters who it's from sometimes, but there's a whole mix of reasons people will buy the art. Just to be...
I'll throw the cat amongst the pigeons. How many NFT artworks do you have in your house on the wall?
Me? Quite a few.
Yeah. Okay.
From lots of unknown artists.
Well, for majority of people, it would be...
an artist.
For majority of people, they hold tens or hundreds of NFTs, and they've probably got none of them on show in their house, for the majority.
Yeah, but actually, this comes to the utility angle.
I'm loving this.
One of the problems that you have with NFTs, like it's actually... So my background is in games. I've been in the game industry nearly 30 years. And And it took a long time for us to be recognized as an art form. And yet we had some amazingly talented game artists. Like, they could do unbelievable stuff. And then if you go back before games, but when people started doing art on computers, other artists smashed up computers because they were like, this isn't art, this is terrible. NFTs are just like, almost like the end game of that, because really until NFTs, digital artists, video artists, they had no real way to sell or display their work. Before NFTs before NFTs even existed, I knew people creating technology to display digital artwork to try and sell to galleries. So galleries had a standard way to present digital artwork and video art. NFTs has actually pushed that domain massively, and suddenly digital artists, some successful ones anyway, can make a living. You can display the work. But on my Samsung TV, I can display my digital artwork. It's still not as good as it should be, but it's just a time thing.
I think the point I'm trying to make is there's thousands of NFT projects, and majority of them are never going to become any form of artwork that people are proud to expose. Whereas if you're purchasing something that's actually got an underlying value, you shouldn't be hurt by the market cycles of Bitcoin based upon what you're offering as a business.
Yeah, I think that's different. I think that's an argument about value, and as you say, there were a lot of 10K projects that were basically valueless. The art wasn't necessarily good, and even if it was never going anywhere, and it probably won't be worth anything. But still, if you liked it and you had some personal attachment to it, it's a collectible. That is a use case. Doesn't necessarily have to be an NFT. But NFTs do outlast other digital art forms that you can get. There's something interesting about that. There's a paper which, when I was first doing my NFT projects back in 2016 or something, I found some research it was research about when people played Pokemon and then came back to it a few years later and they found their old Game Boy didn't work. They're like, oh, but I have a personal relationship with what I played as a kid, and I want my collection, I want my save game. And actually, this does cut into what NFTs can do in the very long term, because those collections are mine. They should be mine, even when Xbox Live turns its service off, which they do. I still want my digital stuff, whether it's art, even if it's a monkey, or if it's an ape, or it's something that was completely worthless, like some skull that I bought. It's actually, there's something about it that is still nice that you can go back to those collections. And that is a use case. It's just how much that use case is worth is a different point.
I think the important factor here, though, is to address the stigma that's surrounding NFTs and crypto as a whole. And currently, the terminology of NFTs will not attract mainstream adoption because of how much bad press and bad exposure they've had. So until you can kind of move away from that and create something that does have a sustainable value, we build our model on digital memberships. Correct, it's an NFT, but it's a digital membership that's giving you access to a digital service. What Bitcoin does has no relevance to what our business does. And I think until there's trust built within the industry and there's more accessibility, that's going to hurt the adoption that's needed.
Yeah, I completely agree. We definitely have an issue with media and press.
Yeah. I'm just getting a bit heated there. Maybe you should pull the chairs away. It's good. Round one. Ding ding. So I totally agree with you. Like, I actually don't know how Web 2 membership works. I've actually solved the issue of a really easy way to create memberships just by owning the NFT. I can validate in one click. However, we're still using tools that are for crypto natives, such as Discord. A lot of people hate Discord. A lot of people can't use it. This is not going to bring them on board, I hate this word, on board the next 1 billion to Web3. So how do we go around these technical issues?
If I may, I think this is, if you look back at the early days of the internet, it didn't used to always be that you could type in your URL bar, your google.com and get to it. Before we had domains, people had to know the IP address of what you were going to. Right now, with where we are in Web3, it's like looking back at that again. We're talking to people about how you go ahead and you make your wallet, you go and mint your NFTs. We need to figure out how we make it as simple as going and opening up your browser and typing in a URL to interact with anything Web3 before we could really talk about the issue of how do we onboard the next 1 billion users. Like, that's an unrealistic thing until we get it as simple as it is with the rest of the web.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think the piece to add on is that why are we doing this? Like, why do we have to solve those problems? And it's because crypto and NFTs as well can do things that you simply can't do in the traditional financial system, or to your example with memberships. There are things that just don't work as well unless they're on a blockchain, unless it's public and accessible. In our case, with payments, it's that there's no chargeback, so you can give people a digital good. It can't be charged back. People can't receive a digital item, then say, oh, I didn't get it. So things like that are why we're doing it. You then sell that to the user take care of the user experience, as you said.
Cool. So Alex, you briefly touched upon your sort of gaming history. Why is there such, I mean, Jacob, you told me in the green room that you played Minecraft, or that's how you got into crypto. I've also played Minecraft, and actually last year I made a lot of money because I was doing those play-to-earn Minecraft games. Why is there such a division between, you know, Web 2 games and Web 3 games? It's still, this is groundbreaking. I can actually like mine and fish and actually make some money out of it. Why is there a division?
Exactly the reason you just said. It's the word money. In the general case, gamers are not interested in making money from their games. And those who are a small but very vocal minority who tend to ruin it for everyone else when you talk about game economies. So money is a really dirty word when it comes to gamers. Yet actually, in reality, when you sit down and go through stuff with them, if they find, oh, so okay, so if I earned this, sorry, if I got this thing, this achievement, or I got this item, bought this item, then it turned out like I was one of the early adopters of this game, and then later on I could have sold it for money. Oh, I'd have done that. So it's a complicated thing, but the reality is that when people are talking about gaming, they're thinking about entertainment and leisure time. And for the vast majority of people, the last thing they want to be thinking about is money or have money come into it, because traditionally there's a strong feeling, and sometimes very correct, that gamers are being ripped off or mugged off with how the games are monetized within the free-to-play domain, within the premium domain. Some of it's true, some of it's not. But it just ties into something that people already believe, and it's like, oh, we're going to get ripped off, EA are going to come and do NFTs, they're just going to charge us even more money for a JPEG. And it's just a very easy message or very easy narrative that's very hard to counter. The reality is that for gamers to actually care about NFTs, or what we call NFTs, they need to see the benefits, not the features. And they're only going to see those benefits by them using them without really knowing, I suspect, and then finding, oh, I can do this. And it might be financial, but it might not be. It might be they can take their character between more games than they thought. Or their character is also membership to, say, your membership club. Or you offer a special bespoke deal if you own something from World of Warcraft, or you've been playing Baldur's Gate. It's that type of thing that they'll gradually learn about the benefits, but you can't pitch the benefits by saying you can sell your stuff. That's not going to work.
I can imagine a world where there are games, social media networks, product services, which have this sort of tradability and allow that as a thing versus ones that don't, and it becoming a selling point of some platforms. Hey, you're going to invest your time consuming this content or playing this game because you like consuming the content, because you like playing the game, but actually you're making an investment of your time and your energy into it. You can resell your stuff. It's not the initial sort of motivation that you turn up with each day to try and make money, but I like the idea that if we execute kind of the NFT platforms correctly and gaming NFTs correctly, that it just becomes something that people want. People want to be on a platform where they might be able to cash out and they might be able to see a return on the time that they've spent using.
I just want to add to that quickly. They do already exist, and that's why we know it's not something that's broadly wanted. They've existed for years. There is a niche audience that really do love that stuff. When I used to do these NFT talks, when everyone thought they were insane, I would give the example of an asteroid from, I can't remember what the game is called. It's like a virtual world game, and it was a guy called John Neverdye bought an asteroid for like $45,000 or something, or maybe it was more than that actually. And I was like, well, people will pay for digital products, but it's in niches. It's very much in niches. That said, you could see a time in the future where perhaps very limited items that within Fortnite could be resold. If it's common items, it becomes quite difficult because it really screws with your game economy. But a few limited items, I could see a time when you're right and people have the expectation they can sell them on.
I think I'm not arguing that it's sort of the be-all and end-all, and also I'm not going to argue with you about gaming because it's not my area. But I think there's a value proposition to the users of, do you want to be here where you can't take your stuff out, where you can't make money, or do you want to be here where you can? You don't have to, but if you can, you're going to choose the second option every time.
If I may, I don't really have much experience in the gaming side of this. I can only speak from my experience as a gamer. And you mentioned Minecraft to begin with. One of the things a lot of gamers hate is when games get filled with too many microtransactions that just ruins the experience. And what we're seeing right now when games are entering the Web3 space is it's just increasing the amount of microtransactions going on. They're turning anything possible into a token. And suddenly if you want to play the game, even if you're not buying something, you need to pay gas fees to do anything. And we touched on Minecraft earlier. Mojang, the company that's behind Minecraft, has banned the implementation of any type of blockchain-based applications being integrated into their game. So I think what we're seeing right now is we have these existing Web 2 games, and the response from gamers on how they want to interact with their games and their reaction to seeing NFTs is, we don't want to touch this, we don't want to ruin our games, and what we've seen happening with the Web 2 companies is they are responding to that correctly by banning it. The only way that we're going to see this change is if Web 3 games actually start to get traction beyond that, that will naturally attract gamers. But yeah, it's a question of if they can do that or if it will be driven by the Web 2 games naturally adjusting to demand.
So what you're saying is we've got a long, hard fight ahead of us.
I would agree.
No, so Fraser, going back to sort of your adult content creation, you're sort of democratizing or empowering users of OnlyFans competitors to have ownership of their income and their spending. So this is kind of different to the gaming industry, where they're like, I don't want to make money. But actually, like, how, from your experience, how has that been received, especially from OnlyFans, which is huge?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to it. So on the content creator side, kind of going back to something I mentioned earlier, crypto has properties that can solve issues with the traditional financial system. And it can be a 10 times better solution for a content creator to use crypto-based payment rails or to turn their content into NFTs that can generate royalties over a longer period of time. But in terms of, sorry, what was the question again?
It's all good. I'm highly offended. What has been sort of the response? We're sort of talking about this battle between...
So to be honest, we've preempted it by, we don't talk about NFTs, we don't talk about crypto on our website at all. But when we use language like collectible content or resales or no chargebacks, people that want to be involved in crypto understand that, hang on, this is a product that uses NFTs. And people ask us, wait, are these NFTs? And we're like, yeah, they are. So it attracts people that want those benefits.
I think that's amazing. Like, just, I'm a marketer and I don't talk about the technology, I talk about what benefits. And I think if we just really focus on the benefits of why we're using this technology, why we're advocating it, why we're sitting on stage right now saying it's the best damn thing to happen since monkey JPEGs. No. But yeah, going back to sort of the title of this panel, like, how do we solve real problems? Aside from your own individual projects, let's not get too deep there. Where do you think we can, for example, supply chain management, there's a lot we can do. Where do you think the real gold is for NFTs? Where do you think the future lies, Jacob?
So I think the future of it lies in what people would call very boring things. I think it is within licensing, credentials, and identification. Like, quickly polling the audience, by a show of hands, how many people have ever had to verify your identity online for any purpose? So a lot of people, and you probably know that that is a very long and annoying process. You have to take pictures of your ID, you have to record yourself doing all these things, and it just takes time and it's annoying. Well, something like NFTs could let us do is, if you were issued by your local government a tokenized version of your identity, you can then connect your wallet, sign a transaction, and they can check the token, proving that it is you, and verify you instantly. Stuff like this is what I think is really going to drive the next adoption of it. Like, it's not going to be flashy like monkey pictures or anything related to gaming that will get people excited about it, but it's going to have a lot of value behind it that people can understand. It's not going to be very speculative.
Sounds a little bit like a vaccine pass to me, but I think that's probably what will come anyway, but what you're suggesting is...
Why didn't that happen? NFT vaccine passes. Too early.
Regulation, too early, yeah.
Yeah, also KYC, you're probably not a fan of that, Alex, as well. Did you actually
No,
have...
not at all. I'm absolutely in favour of this stuff.
Okay, you're a CryptoPunk holder. Sorry, this is really off the record. You said you owned the first ever NFT.
Terms and conditions apply. I have to say that because there's a legal case pending. Kevin McCoy was the first person to make an NFT. He did it actually live on a stream in April 2014, I think it was. And it was a generative piece of art, essentially. And that was sold, a version of it was sold at Sotheby's. And I'm saying that because there's a legal case, and I do not want to be on the end of that legal case right now. So that was on, basically, he did it on, I'm trying to remember which chain it was on, Namecoin. So it was issued on Namecoin. What he did at Sotheby's is he essentially signed a transaction reissuing it from Namecoin to Ethereum, and I bought the Ethereum version. The reason there's a court case, and it's actually technically very interesting, is because there's sort of a way you can sort of own something related to that on Namecoin even now, and someone owns that, and so there is a case between him and Kevin McCoy and Sotheby's about who owns what. But in principle, I own it, and I certainly own the reissue from the originating artist. But if you go back, April 2014, that was the first ever NFT. It was a proto-NFT, because none of us really knew what they were at the time.
Nice, so real OG here. I think we were all pretty OG. So I guess do we have any advice for anyone that wants to start their own sort of NFT project? Apart from don't do it, no, joking. Absolutely not. So like say if anyone in the audience is just starting out and saying there's a lot of legal implications. You just talked about the court case. What would you recommend someone do?
What I would say is, like, one of the first questions was, how do we do better? If anyone goes right now and opens up OpenSea, you're going to see all of the same things again. Insert name here, Yacht Club, or the same like style of profile picture artwork that everyone hates. The way that if you're getting started now, what you should do is do something different. Don't try to copy what everyone's doing right now, the same style of NFT communities, gathering people, getting on a bunch of hype, talking about how you're going to introduce some obscure utility later. Look into what a real problem is that you could solve using technology, and then go ahead and apply it.
And I think another important factor as well, if you're ever going to consider launching an NFT product, before you can launch anything, you've got to create a brand. Because without a brand, you haven't got a product, as far as I'm concerned in this space. It's not 24 months ago when you can go and mint, or go and launch 10,000 collection of elephants and they're going to sell out in a couple of hours. I think that time has been and gone. So you need to be a bit more strategic with your approach, for sure.
I think thinking about who, in a very deep way, you're building for, and then designing the whole technical and user experience around that group. So in our case, we're building for Web2 users. We're trying to get Web2 content creators to use a Web3 product. Therefore, you don't need to do certain things. You don't need to put the media on IPFS and do it in a fully decentralized way and deal with those constraints. You need to have fiat on-ramp, because that's essential for our audience base. Whereas if you're building for a crypto native audience, you start technically from a completely different place, and then from a brand perspective as well.
Now, I think these are all really good points. And I think, Fraser, you're particularly correct about think of who your audience is, what they're looking for. If you're building for CryptoPunks, I said I don't mind KYC, I don't mind if it's done properly. But if you're building for like the hardcore crypto audience, some of them really will care about how decentralized are you. Do you have to do KYC in any form? Can I just pay using Ether or Bitcoin? You need to really think about this. Which blockchain are you using? If your audience is more likely to be a more general audience and they don't really know about crypto and they don't really care, then you might want to hide the crypto element away, make sure you accept fiat, give them a wallet, but they never really know about it. And you although you're going to have to take some legal precautions, you might host all the wallet infrastructure or work with a provider. So the project you're going to do, know who your audience is, definitely create a brand, and make sure it is quite interesting and unique. Don't try and do the wrong thing. Otherwise, you're just going to disappear.
How good are we on time? I'm not sure. We have all the time in the world. Okay, let's just keep talking.
I have 2 minutes before I have to leave for my train, unfortunately.
Okay, well,
everyone else can stay.
You've blessed us with your presence, so thank you. I guess to wrap it up, we were talking about the role of community. We actually didn't mention community once in our talk, and I think it is super important. So, I mean, as a founder, if you're building an NFT project, where do you start with community? I see so many panels that are like community, and it's like, what does that actually mean?
It's a great question. It's the recognizing who your audience is. As Alex has just mentioned, you need to think about what your product is, think about what the demographic is you're going to be targeting, and then think to yourself, where does that community exist? For ourselves, I think we're going to have a huge focus towards like LinkedIn in comparison to, say, Twitter, which are typical Web3 deegans. But, and again, as you mentioned before about fiat on-ramps, there's no reason why you can't have fiat on-ramps and crypto, but you've got to be able to tailor it to be able to target your complete audience and try and get as much of that capacity in as you can. But communities, it's a long game. Again, it's about brand exposure, getting as much awareness out there as you can at events such as Zebu, and having an online presence and consistency. Consistency is the most important thing, whether you're creating blog posts, Medium articles, Twitter spaces. YouTube videos, collaborations. It all pays tenfold when the market comes back. So it's consistency, I would say.
Communities have a feeling of belonging. They have something in common with each other. They speak to each other. So that's what you've really got to try and do. If you think there's a community rather than just someone you're broadcasting to, people have to be doing things together.
I think you've got to make your train now, mate. You're going to miss it. All the strikes.
We'll give you a couple of minutes just so you can...
No, I mean, have you seen the strikes?
Yeah.
It's got 2 minutes. Okay, we're just gonna wrap it up. I guess with passing or closing words, are you bullish for the future of NFTs?
I would say yes. As has probably been evident, I'm very critical of the way that NFTs currently exist, and I guess that being in a bear market as we are right now, we're seeing a lot of the kind of bullshit versions of this disappearing. So I'm bullish on the future of this because I think that we're going to see the sort of real use cases emerge, seeing people using it for ways that we haven't thought about before, seeing more unique areas being explored with them. So I'm very optimistic looking to the future.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would want to add is sense of ownership as part of community is something we're really thinking about. It doesn't have to be literal ownership of a project and like a DAO, but sense of belonging and sense of connection to your project is really fundamental to community. That's the only other thing I wanted to throw in.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive. We're just in a building phase again. There's lots of infrastructure we were just missing. I mean, how many times can people lose their NFTs to thefts, including very experienced people? You can't build anything based on that kind of thing. But in the future, this just won't happen.
100%. I think NFTs are going to have a huge future. Once more accessibility comes, it's easier for people to transact. It needs to be seamless. And once that happens and better projects are brought to market, I think it's only going to go in one direction, whether that's the use of governments deploying such as virtual IDs or using it for memberships or community managements, digitisation of real estate assets. There's so many use cases, and you could probably have another couple of hours on this, but I see a big future for NFTs.
Awesome. So the only way is up, not financial advice at all. Cool. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Big warm round of applause, please, folks.